Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Firsties. So, first things first, if you are watching on YouTube, you will see that I am the only one on this couch. That's the first on this podcast. And if I'm honest, I was actually a little bit nervous for when I was prepping for this episode. And the reason why is because I just to be pretty vulnerable with you guys because that is not something that we are used to in our cultures, being just like a first gen, is I just didn't feel like I was good enough. I was like, am I able to run this show on my own? Am I able to kind of carry the show on my own? Not looking to left of me with the guests to kind of match their energy and their vibe. So bear with me for this episode here, but I am really excited, but I am pretty nervous. So first thing, as always, I want to thank you guys for always supporting. You guys are commenting, you're watching the entire video, which is amazing on YouTube, as well as liking, commenting, subscribing. So please make sure you do that. Please click the bell to get all the notifications when we post, as well as leaving a review on Apple or Spotify really helps us out a lot. So please make sure to do that. I appreciate all the support. So I thought for this episode, when I was prepping for this episode, like I mentioned, I just felt like my insecurities came out a little bit, and I feel like it really just stemmed from not just feeling good enough. And that comes from for a lot of first gens out there, it stems from something. It can vary, whether it's from childhood, from something that someone said to you on the playground one day. It could be your birth order. That was something for me, being the youngest in the family, not only of my direct family, like my siblings, but also my cousins. I found that bad habit that I formed was that I would compare myself internally to my cousins, whether it was their accomplishments or how they did in school or sports or anything like that. And that can be pretty unhealthy and detrimental to your self-esteem and your self-confidence as you get older. That is something that I'm figuring that out now. So as always, I'm a work in progress. So I'm still kind of understanding what that really means. But yeah, so for this episode, like truly with this episode, I'm a little bit uncomfortable, and I laugh when I'm uncomfortable sometimes, because trauma, but I truly, I am excited for this episode, but I was talking to a girlfriend of mine before jumping on this mic, and she was saying like, no, explore why you feel as though that you don't feel good enough. And truly, I know that that's not true, but that's what my brain tells me. And I've realized that, growing up, whether it's because sometimes I'm the only person in the room that looks like me, I find myself that I just feel a little bit insecure that I don't have all the resources that I need because I'm a first gen and I just had to like figure things out on my own, as a lot of us had to. But I'm realizing in my late 20s, which again, I'm a baby, I'm still learning as I'm going. But what I'm realizing is that those insecurities that I had when I was younger is the same tools, I put that in air quotes, that I'm using in my adult life to get ahead. And I'm using that to my advantage. So I'm taking my trauma and turning them into wins or triumphs, is what I like to say. Because although I found that a lot of first gens out there, because we don't feel like we're good enough, or we don't have all the resources that we need because our parents were busy and they had to work. My mom had to work 16-hour days growing up, right? I don't have time to go to her. She doesn't have time for me to feel insecure or anything like that. We don't have time for that, right? Really, at a certain point, and we talked about this in the last episode, it was about survival, right? That was truly what it was when I was younger. But what I really learned, what I'm realizing is that because a lot of first gens out there, and a lot of my sisters and brothers are going to feel me on this, by not feeling good enough, we found ourselves, the only way to get ahead is to outwork everybody in the room. I'm talking about, and I've talked about this before, but for me specifically, if I always felt insecure in any way, first of all, fake it till you make it. I talk to any child of immigrant parents. Baby, we are faking it till we make it. I'm sorry, you will never see me sweat. I might have a private moment to myself when I'm alone, but as far as everyone else, I'm faking it till I make it, babe. I am the most confident person in the room. I am the smartest person in the room, whatever I have to do to get through the day sometimes. And that's truly sometimes the life of a first gen is just getting through the day, truly. Because again, we have that survival tool, and it's just very like automatic at a certain point. Familiar with that kind of muscle memory. And so I actually found that a lot of the times I was given these opportunities, or I was able to achieve, a lot of my achievements by my worth ethic, but my worth ethic stemmed from me truly on the inside, if I'm honest, not feeling good enough. And so I wouldn't change anything for the world, right? Because again, my worth ethic, and a lot of first gens out there and immigrant parents, we got to where we got simply because our worth ethic. Not necessarily that we're the most talented or the most intelligent, and a lot of us are, but it's because we outworked everyone. And I truly believe being obsessed with something, or just outworking everyone else, you will always finish first. That's just truly it, right? Talent can only take you so far, truly. Who you know, networking can only take you so far, but just work off, I really think yields the best results. So that is how I wanted to open this episode. So anyone out there, especially the youngins out there, if you're feeling insecure or anything like that, that's okay. It's actually just that's part of the human experience. Literally, you're being a human being. That's just how life is. I hope you just don't allow it to stop you. I hope you allow it to actually motivate you and push you forward. Because again, like I've talked about a million times on this podcast, none of us know that we're doing. None of us know what we're doing. Truly, none of us know what we're doing. That's what I figured out in my mid-20s. Like, oh, even these adults don't even know what they're doing. So why am I putting so much pressure on myself to try to figure out what I need to be doing, right? Because no one really knows. We can't predict what tomorrow brings. Truly, the state of the world right now, it's very, very heartbreaking on what's going on in the world right now. And so tomorrow is not promised. So all you can do is focus on yourself, focus on your goals, work as hard as you can if you're capable. And then lastly, just being grateful for what you do have rather than you don't have. And truly, I'm saying this to the camera and the mic, but really I'm just speaking to myself truly, because when I was prepping for this episode, I was like, man, I'm like a little bit nervous, rather than like being nervous on interviewing someone that I don't know or, anything like that. But no, I'm just nervous on being alone on this couch. That's something I need to explore. And I know a lot of first gens can relate. So switching over to the next portion of this episode, I asked on social media for anyone to ask me questions, anything at all. And so I'm going to go ahead, and I got a good amount of them, which again, I appreciate everyone reaching out. If you ever want to ask me any questions or just even recommend a guest that should come on, any local DC artists, musicians, comedians, anything of that nature, DMV area, you could DM us at firstiespod. That's FIRSTIESPOD. That's firstiespod. Or you could email us at firsties@gmail.com. That would be really appreciated. Ask us anything that you want. We'd be happy to answer them. Well, to a certain extent. Let me not get too carried away. So I have the questions here. So we're going to go through each of them. All right. So let me see here. Let me pull them up here. Okay. So first question. I probably should have vetted these before we got started. Can you tell that I'm still learning the podcast world? But again, firsties, right? First to do in my family, so I'm going to figure it out as I go. The first question is, why are you the way that you are? Nami, just stop. That's my cousin. I don't know I am the way that I am. That you could ask God that question. Next question is, when is Fie coming? I've mentioned it before, but Fie is my dad. He's definitely going to be coming on the podcast. We tried once, but it just didn't work out to record. But he's definitely going to come on. He's probably going to come on before the end of the year, before the holidays, probably. I'm really excited for that episode. Again, if anyone have met my dad, he's the man, the Mitch, the legend. I'm sure his episode is going to be pretty entertaining. So I'm excited to have him on. Next question. What is your goal with the pod? So my goal with the podcast, I know I've talked about this before, but truly my goal with the podcast is truly just to create content for the 10-year-old me or the 14-year-old me. When I was going through what I was going through, the confusion, the trauma, honestly, the self-doubt, the insecurities, the not feeling good enough, I was having a pretty tough time. No one knew it because, again, as first gens, we were just taught just to keep going, fake it till you make it. Feelings, emotions is not a real thing in the Habesha community, right? Feelings, sadness, insecurities, what are those? We don't know those, right? So I didn't have a space to really share comfortably. So I want to create a space for the generation after me. I also think this is also just healing for anyone that comes on as well, having these conversations. Because again, we're having these conversations with our cousins, with our family members sometimes. So why not on a bigger platform? So that is my goal here, truly. Why did you start the podcast? This is something similar as well. One of the reasons why I started is because I do truly love media as well. That's what I studied. And then I also just think it's a lot of fun. So I'm having fun doing this, meeting different people, interviewing different people, also interviewing my family. So it's just a lot of fun. So I'm hoping that you guys all join us on this journey and you have fun as well. Someone asked, can I come on your show? You absolutely can. As always, please make sure just to DM us at Firsties. Or my personal, Mila Fasaha. You can also email us as well at firsties@gmail. I'll probably ask for your story to see exactly what topics that we could talk about. Because again, I just want to push the conversation further, whatever that discussion is, so we can absolutely work that out. Someone asks, when are you going to make time for me? Boy, I'm just going to move on to the next question. Okay, I know you don't really give advice, but I'm curious. I'm not feeling good enough at the new job that gave me a promotion. What should I do? Work. That's what you should do. Here's the thing. As first gens, we are designed in a way where, at least I can only speak for myself, where we question everything. The reason why sometimes some of us grew up in an environment that wasn't the most whether it's nurturing or could be chaotic. The reason why is because, again, we were in survival mode. And so we couldn't just focus just on school. We had other things to focus on as well because we didn't have the resources like our other counterparts, right? And so we question ourselves when things, why do first gens question ourselves when the things start to work out, right? For someone like myself, when I got into the position that I got into, I would consider myself a late bloomer in that way. I would question myself at every step. But then on my downfalls or things I need to work on, I would never question that. I'd be like, well, that's just like my life. And that's so unfair, right? Because you are deserving of these amazing things and these great things. And our parents did not work this hard and migrate and, move away from their family and their loved ones for us to not want a better life for ourselves, right? So never question it. And also, you got the promotion. So that means you were the best candidate. So literally, the reason and the evidence and the proof that you need, that you deserve, or that you're worthy of this promotion is that you got it, right? So congratulations. Enjoy the role that you're in. And of course, until you get to the point where you really do feel good enough, because I know that's for everyone that's dealing with that, fake it till you make it, truly. Someone asks, what's your cousin's at? Boy. So not someone trying to get out of my cousin. I'm pretty sure I added her at to the description, so you go find it. Just gonna move on from there. Let me see here. I saw your episode on your relationships. Wanted to ask, do you talk to your parents now about your dating life? So what they're referring to is an episode I've interviewed my mom before and with my cousins. Growing up as a first gen, coming home after school with like your books and your on roll, you're not sitting down with your African ass parents and saying like, so I talked to Caleb today and I think he's going to ask me out to homecoming. Like, that's not something that happens. We don't even know that vocabulary or that conversation. My parents would blink twice and then probably smack me across the face or be like, what are you even talking about? That's just not something that we talk about in African culture. Now I'm an adult and I think I turned out okay. And I'm in a lucky position where I'm able to talk to my parents about my dating life, not to details because let's not get too crazy, right? But I am able to talk to my parents about it. I don't share like very much details, and truly I don't know what it is, but in the African or first gen immigrant family household, we don't really go into detail or share that we have a partner or anything like that until we pretty committed to the point where when you bring someone home to the family, that is like a unspoken kind of rule that you're sharing with the family that this is probably going to be your chosen partner, someone you're probably going to marry. So I don't know what it is, but I think it's something I just grew up with and I just noticed my parents do, or my older cousins do as well, that they introduce their fiancés. They don't necessarily introduce their boyfriends or girlfriends. That's just something that our cultures just don't do. Comment down below if you're the same. Let me see here. What else? Someone asked, are you single? I'm going to move on from that question. When did you know you wanted to be a podcast show? Or podcast host, excuse me. When did you know you wanted to be a podcast host? That's an interesting question. I want to know who asked these questions. We collected these and then placed it into one document. But truly, I didn't know that I wanted to be a podcast host, but I know I wanted to be in media or something by the time I was like 8 years old. Babes, I'm 27 right now, and I'm just stepping into this role. Only person that stopped me from doing this is myself, but truly is because of the environment that I was in. Wanting to say I want to be on camera or be part of a show or anything like that just was not celebrated. It was all like doctors, engineers, EMTs, nurses, things of that nature, medical assistants, things of that nature, or just anything clinical or medical. And so because it wasn't celebrated, at a young age, when you're a kid, all you want to do is feel loved and supported. And so you're going to go towards those things that yield those emotions or, give you that love. And so I kept that to myself for the longest time. And I feel like truly I'm finally becoming the person that God has intended me to be. Joy in my life. I started to find happiness in my life. And I want to be clear that, and I know some of my older family members are going to relate and agree, and even my parents, that I don't necessarily think that happiness is the goal, but I do think a quality of life is, and moments of joy in your life. Is every day going to be the best day of your life? No, right? And happiness is just a state of being. So I think sometimes it's dangerous to just talk about I just want to be happy, because what does that really mean, right? And that changes as you get older as well. But just to have joy in your life, whether it's your relationships or your career or the creative things that you're doing, whatever the case is, or helping out a friend or a family member, I think that's most important. And so when I was younger, I honestly just did everything I could do to distract myself, because I just was not okay with who I actually wanted to be, because it just felt like it was not welcome or encouraged in our culture. A lot of my musician friends, my rapper friends, my athlete friends all can relate, because that isn't always encouraged in the immigrant family, because we don't have space to do that, right? Growing up, I had no choice but to succeed, and saying I wanted to become an actress or be in movies or be in film, that's not a very secure job. So I understand where my parents were coming from. But growing up, it led me into these very difficult arenas, I would say, because I would either try to become someone else that I'm not. And what I'm doing is I'm saying no to myself, but yes to everyone else. And then at a certain point, I was just kind of tired of it and was fed up. And I kind of took my power back when I was like, I'm going to be who I'm supposed to be. And truly, I really, really believe the moment, not me getting vulnerable on this episode, the moment I started to be exactly who God intended me to be, is the moment He started to really, really give me my blessings. Like when I tell you that, for me, whoever your higher power is, I mean, when God shows up, not only does he show up, but he shows off. He really, really does. And I'm talking about like the moment it happened, these opportunities just started to come towards me. And I feel as though once I was focusing on my character and who I was as a person, meaning how God intended me to be, my career started to fall into place. All the things that I actually cared about, because truly he knows me for who I really, really am. He knows me more than anyone else, more than even my parents. And I feel as though he knew what to tangle in front of me to get me to become who I'm supposed to be. And so that was a long answer to your question. But I never really knew that I wanted to become a podcast host, but I did know that I wanted to be media a long time ago. I just didn't feel comfortable to do that. And also part of that was just believing in myself. And I actually learned in the last couple months, even starting this journey of this podcast, right? Because, this is me doing this. It's a business that I started, and I'm kind of learning along the way. And I'm excited that you guys are on this journey with me. Because again, I'm really embracing what the show is. It's called Firsties. And I really want to embrace that I don't know what I'm doing half the time, like a lot of us. But I do think it's very exciting along the way, and there's a lot to be grateful for. But so with this podcast, it's brought up some emotions throughout my life that I've tried to not deal with, because again, as firsties, we're just taught to just kind of like suppress our emotions like way down. And that works for a certain amount of time, but at a certain point you do have to look in the mirror, and truly it's just best and just less painful. Just be the person you're supposed to be, whatever that is. Truly, I know that sounds so cliche, but as I'm getting older, and when I'm talking to people who've been on this earth more than I have, they truly say all the cliches are true, that there's not enough time with your loved ones. Like, the most important thing is your health and your family. And so, truly, I'm getting more comfortable in this chair, but also being comfortable in my own skin. All right, guys, we are back after that commercial break. And by commercial break, I mean just a plug for you guys as a reminder to follow everywhere firstiespod. That helps us out a lot. Before the break, I was simply really just sharing. Again, I just want to emphasize that for first gens out there, a lot of us, because sometimes our culture does not allow us to be who we're supposed to be, meaning we grew up in a completely different country where we're born from, and our heritage is not where, or our culture is not necessarily where we live. Just be yourself, whatever that is. And I also want to state that part of the reason I find that I wasn't able to be myself is because of the fear of being misunderstood. That if I truly am myself, and my family, my parents, my friends do not accept this person, now I've opened myself to being vulnerable and being hurt, right? And what I'm learning, and what I'm still trying to learn, I still have not mastered this, is being okay with being misunderstood. Not everyone's going to understand you. Not everyone's not going to understand why I want to have a podcast and be a host and, be a part of media and get on major networks and all those things. Not everyone's going to understand that, and that's okay. Because truly, the captain of your life is you, right? You're the one who's managing your ship. And at the end of the day, you've got you. And so it's just honestly best to come to who you're supposed to be sooner rather than later. Again, I don't regret anything of my past or my mistakes or anything like that, but it's just interesting where I'm at now versus where I am when I was in my early 20s, which also, excuse me, a side note, your early 20s, just treacherous, just very, very ghetto. So anyone who's in their early 20s, I just want to a moment of silence for you, because that is real ghetto. Last question here. Oh, that's not an actual question. Just some people just being funny. My family members just want to DM me and just say the most ridiculous stuff. I'm not going to say that on air. So that is it for this episode, guys. I really hope that you enjoyed it. It ended up being deeper than I thought it was going to be, which is usually what happens on these shows here. Comment down below any other questions that you guys have, or any guests that tag us and any guests that should come on the show. I actually really enjoy this podcast. I was really nervous starting out, like I mentioned a million times when we first started. But I'm glad I was able to push through, and I really hope that you guys enjoyed this episode. Again, truly, with this episode, I really just want my first gens out there, my firsties out there, just to not feel alone. Because again, I think there's power in community and just feeling like you're not alone on what you're going through. So I hope this podcast does that for you. Lastly, as always, please make sure to subscribe, turn on your post notifications to make sure you don't miss a single episode. And then, of course, rate us as well. That helps us out a lot. As always, guys, call your parents, call your family. There's not enough time on this earth with our loved ones, so make sure you're spending time with your loved ones. And that is it for this episode. Take care, guys. Bye.